Okay, so hi, my name is Azucena, and today we're going to be presenting and talking about the femoral artery. It is commonly known, give me a second. It is known that the femoral artery is one of the largest in diameters when you come to look at it. It is found within the triangle, which is between below your abdomen in a sense, and then kind of close to your like thigh. So it's like in between there. And in addition to that, one thing that I did find interesting about this is the types of materials that you could use for this artery, because a lot of people use commonly PET and EPTFE, which is reasonable. However, there are some cons to them. That's why I decided to go with PLA, which is somehow not used as we would expect. Now, when we're talking about the diameter, the reason why I came out with this measurement is because of the intima and the media. They have several layers when you come to discussing about the artery overall. So I put the externa, which would be 830 millimeters, and then 1.06, which were found on journals based on adult males over the age of 25. Okay. Now, material would be, like I mentioned, PLA, PET, and EPTFE. Now, process of flow simulation. While I was doing the flow simulation, I had encountered um a an inlet flow, which I use like the blood flow going through. So as you could see, like in the flow simulation right there, you see the blood going through. And then we have the environment pressure. The environment pressure, you would think like the outside pressure, but no, um, like environmental wise, like room temperature, like usually that's commonly used. However, the environment pressure that I used was the pressure for arteries, which would be the one shown there. Okay. Yes, the pressure would be 9,452 PA, and the flow of blood would be 1.059, about 1.06 if you round it up, meters cube per second. And that led to running like the three lanes just in one simulation overall. This was done for all the simulations. This is just an example here with PLA. I did input like a lot of the values for like Poisson, tensile compressive, like those I did input there for PLA and EPTFE because it's not commonly registered within the simulation. Now, when we're talking about the results, I did notice that when it comes to printing, if we do 3D printing, we would need to increase the length because when you try to print them, it is smaller than a blueberry, and it's not ideal to do that and to have an estimate when it comes to sizing. So I think my recommendation is to increase it larger than 100 when it comes to these types of arteries. Now, for the results, I would be talking about the maximum pressure. Um, for maximum pressure, I did notice how both EPTF and PLA did fall under the same category, kind of close to each other. However, we have a maximum static pressure that is lower than both of them, which would be the PET. Now, when I ran the PET, I did notice that the 2.5 was different from the 1.05 that I did provide. So I did run multiple times. I'm still not sure why that's still lower. Now, when deciding which is the best option, it it is very, how would I say? There are two options, and it's based off one research and then the other one on cost, because you just don't want to choose a material that is just cheap because it's just cheap. You have to choose it because it's an ideal and it could withstand. Now, in this case, I did notice that although PET is quite expensive, it is not ideal due to research that I have done where one scientist, which his name is Nicholas, had investigated that PET has, in a sense, become smaller. The diameter became smaller over time to the point where there is a lack of blood flow through. So that's something concerning that I would not consider, that would lead me to not considering PET. EPTFE is not commonly used because the process of making it is actually more complex and more expensive. Now, the website that I used is called Prusa Printing, which is how I got these values. And the way that they calculate the material cost when it comes to these types of materials is like you get the cost, which would be for PLA would be 24.99, and then for PET would be 29.99. Now, when we're talking about EPTFE, it's about 49.99 to print out. Now, because I took the mass of each of the signs, I actually got I basically I'm going more for the total of the 100 millimeters because that's the most accurate when it comes to sizing. But now I got, what would I say? Like I got like 354 grams on the PEPTFE, which gives me 18 cents. I did calculate that. And then the way that I did it is that I got 1,000, which would be the total, like the filament, and then I multiply that times the grams that I got. That's how I got the total. I did show that when it comes to the report, I did show that. So if you have more questions, I put the formula in there. Now, when it comes to cost, like I mentioned, PLA is the one that is the least expensive, which is ideal. My way of seeing this is that although EPTFE and PET are common ones because they do not degrade over time, I still see the possibility of it shrinking, which is not ideal because we're still facing the same issues when it comes to a lack of flow. So it wouldn't be a good idea. Now, PLA has a degradation period of 2 months. However, it has lasted up to 6 to 8 months. Now, looking at that, a way to increase the degradation period, decrease the degradation period, sorry, would be by adding like a blend of polymers. So that would be another factor to consider. So my best option would be PLA. It is the second one with compressive strength of a really good compressive strength. The first one would be PET, and then it goes to PLA. Now, I will be choosing PLA as my ideal material. Why? Because it's inexpensive and its way to degrade could be controlled in a sense that um it could actually be less expensive while blending it in and could provide good could be a good source to surgeons. Now, it is important to consider this because when you're performing surgery, they do want a material that's easy to work with. And when it comes to grafts, it has to be compatible. Now, PLA and PET are good sources. They all three are good sources. However, when it comes down to pricing, like I mentioned, it would be PLA and PET to last because EPTFE does have a way to print, but it takes more money and more time. Now that is why I would choose PLA instead. And my second option, best option would be PET.